Okay. What
Hello.
is happening?
I think we are live, John.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that doesn't automatically come up. But we are back. Excellent timing. Great. All right, we're back. It's Necessary Roughness on Bite Size Sports. I'm your host, John. I'm joined by Kev and Simon today. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing great, man. Pumped to be here.
Same for me. I am excited. We got the NFL season back. It's nice. We got 3 live shows on Bite Size Sports this week, so it feels good, John. Feels great.
Yes, we're ready to roll. I've been better, I've been worse, but when life gives you quarters, just throw the post. Ken Stabler said that. So I we're ready to jump into it. This should be a fun one. We've got some preseason stuff to talk about. We can project a little bit about 2024. There's a little bit of injury news that has obviously cropped up. It sucks when they happen this early, but I'm sure there's a little bit of that we'll touch on as we jump through a few of these teams. But before we get into any of that, I'm going to have to commiserate the meniscus of one Jonathan James McCarthy. And we got the Nick Stop. Keebler is with us as well, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
Jonathan James McCarthy, we're awaiting news on whether it'll be a full repair or a meniscus trim. But either way, it looks like he'll be sidelined at least most of the season, which is a huge bummer. So I'm going to distract myself by talking mostly about other teams with you guys tonight, if that's all right. First thing I want to jump into, Keebler, welcome, by the way. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. Been a minute.
Yes, sir.
I like it. It's good. Since we're diving away from your team, just want to say Giants week 1.
Yeah, I think what'll it be? It'll be like the August 27th show. We'll talk a bunch about that game, I'm sure. The first thing we're going to do tonight, gentlemen, is a little bit of a Survivor segment. James, what's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to start negative, which, hey, why not? We'll start the whole season of Necessary Roughness with about the most negative segment you'll find, and that is which teams we feel will definitely not make the playoffs. So we can start. We'll each name one team, and we'll go. Let's just go counterclockwise, and we'll start with you, Keebler. And this segment's going to be called "Grab Your Torch." I'll be Jeff, and we'll kick a couple of teams off of the playoff island here in the preseason. So, Keebler, who do you have for the team you feel most confident will not make the 2024 playoffs?
Well, I don't know if you remember the beginning of last season, but I said that the Colts and Texans would be fighting for 4th place in the division. So maybe my word's not the best to go off of. But that being said, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, which is good. So Young should have more pocket. But they got the one receiver from the Steelers. Who was it? Deontay Johnson, right?
Yep.
Not much else outside of that. They sent the best pass rusher in the league over to the Giants. So they lose a little bit there, but it's just not going to be a contending team for at least a couple more years. Like to make playoffs, not contending is like probably 25 years down the line, but to make the playoffs, I think they win maybe 5 games generously.
Yeah, waiting on David Tepper's retirement to really jump into contention. I like that one. I think that's a pretty solid one. Kev, who do you? And I'd probably agree with Caroline. I don't think there's a shot. I think they're probably the fourth best team in that division, let alone the conference. So I like that one. Kev, who you got?
As much as I hate to do it to a former Colts legend, guys, I think one of the teams I'm ready to scratch off the list would be the Raiders, led by is Gardner Minshew the number one there? Is that locked in yet?
I think they're gonna ride Aiden O'Connell, no Diddy.
I do kind of think they should start AOC and see what happens. He was like okay for stretches last year, and Minshew's kind of the perfect like, all right, our guy got hurt, or all right, it's not working with our guy. Let's see if Minshew can just kind of scrap the playbook and make a few plays off schedule. And
Vegas is doing the classic 2 guys in one spot on the unofficial depth chart. My favorite thing every offseason, preseason. Instead of putting out a fake arbitrary thing that doesn't actually mean anything, they're just like, let's just squeeze 2 guys into one space anyways. But yeah, I think these guys are right. I think Aiden O'Connell is going to end up being the guy.
That's the right call. I'm just saying.
Either way, the grass is probably the same color on either side of that fence.
You go look at their stats from last year, even all the advanced metrics, they're like they're neck and neck on just about everything. It's hilarious. They just got the same dude, but with much different aura.
Yes. Simon, who you got outside of those two teams?
I've got the Broncos. I've got Denver. I'm not liking what I'm smelling. Last year they finished 24th in DVOA, 19th on offense, 30th on defense, and that offensive number. I mean, you watch how they played offense through the whole stretch of the season, and it was just screens and flats and dink and dunks, and the occasional moon ball from Russell Wilson. They don't even have that this year. I am worried about what this offense could potentially crater to, losing their center Lloyd Cushenberry and going down to whatever they're going to be at quarterback this year. And the defense finished 30th last year in DVOA, and that was with Justin Simmons, who's now gone. So I don't see this team turning around. And I know they went 8-9 last year, but that was with that improbable 5-game win streak in the middle of the year where they beat Kansas City, Buffalo, Cleveland. I think Green Bay was in that stretch too. And it was crazy when it was happening. So, you take that away, you bring that to the, there you go, James. You bring that back to the, regression, right? I think this is going to be a 5-6 win team at best.
I think it's being a little generous.
Yeah. Zach Allen signing that, moving the needle for you. I agree that feels like a team to me that is most firmly in a rebuild of just about any other team. They're just cutting their losses for the Russell Wilson thing. Peyton's trying to build it back up. They made a few kind of 2021 Jags-esque free agent signings, and just kind of throwing money at some starting caliber players, but probably not a lot of needle movers, and just kind of gearing up for the rebuild. So I'm right there with you. If you like, I think JT O'Sullivan said as much. I think it was him who said this. If you like guys who throw the check down into the flat and throw off platform when there's no reason to, you are going to love Bo Nix. And I'm not seeing him get sculpted into a Peyton's new Drew Brees either. So, thanks, Michael. I appreciate it, man. I have to leave it. Because I now have a haircut that looks like I'm up for a role in a late adolescence dramedy. So I have to leave the beard so it doesn't de-age me too fully. So I appreciate the love there. Yeah, I like all those ones. Lee actually dropped mine in the comments. If those three were taken, I was gonna say the Saints, and I don't think they're gonna be a 4 or 5 win team. I think they'll be around 500. I think their floor and their ceiling is like a 2-win gap. Like I think they're gonna be a 7, 8-win team, not make the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of another season where they're just going to be treading water. They figured out how to get Chase Young on the roster somehow again, but a lot of their more key players are aging now, and it's just one of those really mediocre teams. Like there are teams that if I were to be making predictions, I might say the ranges of other teams, like they could finish better. Like there are other teams who I feel like could make the playoffs, but realistically will probably do worse than the Saints. But I don't see the Saints winning, more than 8 games or less than 6. And I think they'll just be extremely mediocre with a pretty low ceiling. So yeah, I agree, Lee. That seat's extremely hot. Derek Carr will, get you some wins. He's an okay quarterback. They've got a lot of things going on that are okay, and yeah, and that's exactly right. He might get benched. They might be out on that experiment sooner than later. So, a lot of question marks, but there's enough talent in a lot of places that I think they'll be fine. I just don't think they have a playoff ceiling at all.
I'm not going to take any Spencer Rattler disrespect. They're going 17-0, baby.
I'm not buying any Spencer Rattler stock yet, but
now's the time if you're interested. I still work for that card company. I'm in the know. So
okay. I might be looking for a Spencer Rattler card now that you say that. Rattler season. I watched only his preseason game. That is all you need to jump to dramatic conclusions in my book when you're watching football.
If the Giants ended up taking a quarterback in this past draft, I was hoping that he would slide to us in like the 3rd or 4th round, just to like take a gamble on him.
Yeah.
But because before all of his weapons left at South Carolina, he was a dog. But
yes. Well, hey, and yeah, that's true. And he makes some of those highlight throws. Like he's got an absolute piss missile. It's just one of those things where it's like, how consistent can he be? And you know what, Zach? Well, before we transition here, you're very lucky that Jonathan James McCarthy did get injured because he was spurned by your Giants. Apparently, they were chatting him up the most through the draft process, passed up on him at 6. Ohio State did this to him, and he never lost to Ohio State. So you're very lucky that it's Darnold. But
yeah, but then we remembered, we were like, 2022 is looking pretty nice, especially in that postseason.
December 2022.
Whenever the playoff game was that T-Hawk like torched us.
It's funny. We played twice, I think, in that month, that season, and we split. So. And we split, but the rematch is going to be real. Yes, that might count for a 1.5. All right, let's jump into another playoff related segment, and this is who's out. Now, for a 14-team playoff format, I think the average repeat playoff teams since that expansion has been like 7 or 8. That might be
the last 3 seasons. 4 or 5 teams from the previous year's playoff did not make the present year playoff for the last 3 years. So there's 4 or 5 teams.
We should get all 4 right here between the 4 of us, right? And as let's kind of run through quickly-ish, naming those 4 teams. If we have some doubles, we can definitely get a little creative, but we'll go counterclockwise again, starting with Keebler, and once we get through those 4, we'll talk through a little bit of, what teams that missed it last year you feel like might kind of be ready to make that jump and take that spot. So who do you have missing the playoffs who made it last year, Keebler?
Hang on. I don't want to be incorrect on this. So I'm going to just look up. I just don't think
it's so easy. It's so easy to think all 14 playoff teams off the top of your head from just 7, 8 months ago and get it wrong. So I did the same thing. I've got them pulled up on the side here.
The team I was thinking did not make the playoffs anyway, so it would have held consistent. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Perfect. For the audience, real quick, the teams that made it last season in the AFC: Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Houston, Cleveland, Miami, Pittsburgh. In the NFC: San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, Tampa Bay, Philly, the Rams, and the Green Bay Packers.
So I think my choice, because it's hard, because I'm pretty sure in the AFC, it can easily be a case where all of the teams just make it back, and I can definitely see that. But if I were to pick one that doesn't make it, I would probably say the Browns. You don't know how Chubb's going to be when he comes back from that gruesome injury that he had last year. Obviously, he's been through something similar, but not quite as drastic as it was, or as painful to watch, rather. I still don't have full trust in Deshaun Watson. Based off of training camp, seeing off of him and things like that. So if it comes down to relying on Amari Cooper and Myles Garrett, don't know if you're in the best hands there. But obviously Myles Garrett's a top 2 defensive player in my opinion. But I just don't think that they took a big enough jump to compete with some other teams that did make that jump, I feel like.
No Joe Flacco to save him this year.
Yeah,
I mean maybe. Who knows what'll happen by week 17?
And Jim Schwartz was cooking a lot of last season, but that defense slowed down a little bit towards the end of the year. And you've got another year of age to a lot of those guys. You guys know how much I love their secondary, but they were really kept afloat by the defense. And no Joe Flacco. It could get a little ugly. So, Kev, who you got?
I never thought I'd be saying that sentence or hearing that one from you, John, in 2024. But here we are. It's Flacco's world. We're all living in it. I am going to go with an NFC team. For me, I'm going to kick out the Los Angeles Rams. They're my pick to not return. I know maybe they're not in the strongest division out there, but I do see some other teams. Of all the teams that are in the NFC that made it last year, there's maybe another one out here that I look at that I'm like, two of these things are not like the other. But it's, do you like the NFC West better or the NFC South? So for me, I am taking the Rams off the board, fellas.
I like it. No Aaron Donald. Stafford played 15 games last season, but health is kind of a constant worry for him. You will have cut back with Nakua, but how well that flows and how healthy Cup's able to stay. Jonah Jackson's had some injury concerns already early on. So I think
both tackles are hurt right now. I think Havenstein and
Havenstein is
Jackson
down.
are dealing with something.
Kyron Williams
has got something right now
too, right?
Williams and Corum, they've got to cobble together that defense without having Donald as the crux. I like a lot of their young guys, but it would take some pretty favorable outcomes to get them back there. So I like that one too, because a lot of these teams coming off that playoffs with like not a ton of changes, it's tough to really pick and choose. So I like the logic behind that one. Simon, who you got?
This is hard, guys. And John, I'm sorry, I'm going to steal 3 minutes here to tell everybody why this is such a difficult exercise. So here are the teams that made the playoffs in 2022 that missed it last season. The Bengals, the Chargers, the Jaguars, the Giants, the Vikings, the Seahawks. What did all those teams have in common? Burrow, Herbert, Lawrence, Jones, and Kirk all got hurt and missed significant time or were playing banged up. The Seahawks, who were overtaken in their division by the Rams, who missed the year before when Matt Stafford got hurt. All right, so last year was a story of like if your quarterback got hurt, like you were the one that was out, basically. So I went back the next year and tried to do it again. So we had the Rams, the Cardinals, the Packers, the Raiders, the Titans, the Patriots. Made it in 2021, missed it in 2022. Those quarterbacks were Stafford and Kyler, who got hurt in 2022. And then the fun one, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, and Mac Jones. All four of those quarterbacks were on different teams within 2 seasons of missing the playoffs. So there's a lot of like football things I could try to think about and come up with an answer on. And I don't want to predict anybody to get hurt because that's not fun. So instead, I just want to predict what quarterback is not going from a playoff team last year is not going to be on their team in the next 2 seasons. 2 of mine have already been said, Deshaun Watson and Matt Stafford. I'm going to go with a guy that I actually love, but I don't think he's going to be on this team in 2 years, and it's Dak Prescott for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
By the way, I think they should have forked over the money forever ago.
$10 billion franchise tightening the purse strings.
Paid anybody yet. And by the way, like this is a real football thing too. Like this feels like the team that's on the edge of the cliff. And Jerry Jones, every time he gets on the mic, is just pushing them over a little bit more. CD, we miss you, but we don't miss you on the field. What does that mean? You just missed hanging out with it. You shooting the shit with Jerry with CD in the locker room after practice, Jerry. I don't think you're doing that. So
you gave him the legacy number. We can re-sign him.
That'll do it.
He's wearing 88 in the Cowboys uniform.
So nobody's paid. Mike McCarthy is in a contract year as well. And Dak is going to get a bag. So I don't think he's going to be on this team for 2 years. So whatever happens over the next year or so. But yeah, I think this could be one of those surprise teams. There's an easier team to pick that John might go with here. But I think one of those surprising ones that might get us is the vibes around this Cowboys team all year long might just be funky.
Yeah, I agree. I love Michael's comment here. Yeah, him and Jimmy Johnson should just be in a sauna together talking about the 93 season. And I think, you did leave me a pretty easy one, but I am going to go with the Bucs out of the NFC South. It's tough to envision a repeat champion in that division in general. I talked about how I feel like the Saints will be just about as mediocre as you can be. No more Dave Canales as OC for Baker there. Maybe he carries some of that into this season and stays, pretty solid. But, it's another one of those teams that has just gotten thinner and thinner in the secondary, on the defensive line. And probably going to see a healthier Godwin this year. I like the quarterback and the wide receiver duo. But I think that's only going to get you so far. And I do really like, we've kind of already eliminated the other 3, but I do really like the Falcons to win this division this year. I said this last offseason as well, just because mostly because of Caleb McGarry and Chris Lindstrom. But it looks like Kirk Cousins will be healthy to start the season. Arthur Smith's gone. There's no more no more daddy's money, run the ball game from Arthur Smith. You're going to see, ideally, you see Drake London utilized a lot better. Ideally, you see Kyle Pitts utilized a lot better and more prolifically. So I think the talent has been there now for probably 2 straight seasons. And I think Kirk Cousins kind of will be able to bind that together, get the ball where it needs to go, and the coaching staff will do less to hurt that effort this season. So, yeah, I think the Bucks will be out, and someone else gets a turn out of the NFC South. So, yeah, they might actually throw it to Kyle Pitts, might actually throw it to Drake London. They might utilize some of these top 10 skill position picks. So, yes, it's my Kirk Cousins truth. It's honestly all just Kirk Cousins truthing that I'm spewing right now. So, but no, I've been on the Falcons for a while, and I hope they punch it through this year. So that's kind of one of the teams that I think is going to make it, because we have to have a team from that division making it if the Bucks are out. Off of kind of what we said, who's out, there might be another couple of teams that miss it. You said no Dallas, Simon, no Rams for Kev, and and how am I forgetting yours, Keebler? You said an AFC team, and no Browns out in the AFC. So who are some of the teams that you feel like will be back in it or kind of getting there for the first time? A lot of quarterbacks coming back healthy that were out last year. So Simon, I'll kick it back to you actually first. What's a team that you feel pretty confident will punch their ticket this season?
I think Seattle gets right back in. I think the Seahawks get right back in. They continue to swap places with the Rams in and out for a couple of years here. Geno Smith is a dude. They fortify that offensive line a little bit to help mitigate some injuries. They were really banged up at the tackle spots again last year. They're bringing George Fant to help with that. Christian Haynes, the rookie guard, is looking pretty good. They had a pretty weak interior. They also signed Connor Williams. We'll see if he's playing center or guard for them. And the new offensive coordinator, Grubb from Washington, should really just let Geno just like spread and shred, man. And it should be a lot of fun. But most importantly, defensively, Seahawks haven't gotten defense right for the last few years. And now Mike McDonald is their head coach. And not only does he bring his own knowledge and his own scheme and system, but he didn't actually even bring a lot of guys from Baltimore. He's bringing guys from different places. So I think they're going to do some interesting stuff. But I think it's just going to be a really good player coach fit on that defensive side. Devon Witherspoon as their Kyle Hamilton. And that defensive line, I think, has a good mix of 2 gap style guys that can kind of plug away like some of the guys from the Ravens line, but then some guys that can also shoot the gap. And I just think it's going to be a really fun. It's going to be like the Ravens defense like 2 years ago when McDonald first got there, where it's just all kind of helter skelter for a little while before it gets really nailed down. But I think this defense can get to like average. I think can get to like top. Let's even call it like top 20 defense in year one, and this offense can be a top 12, 13. And I think that gets them, that one more win and gets them back in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I love that one. That's probably the one I'm most sure about. I think the Seahawks are back up. What do you got, Kev?
Ooh, mine's probably not as good. I'm torn on there's 2 or 3 teams I thought about for this, and I'm gonna avoid being a homer here, and I'm not gonna talk about my team at all as a possible entry here. And I am actually going to hype up one of our co-hosts here, and maybe Simon, you might have to correct me if I am speaking out of turn here, but I have a feeling that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to find their way back into the playoffs. Maybe John is a Kirk Cousins truther. Maybe I'm just a Justin Fields truther. And I believe that the job will be his by the end of the year. But there's something about a Mike Tomlin team every once in a while, 10 wins might get you in. I don't know what to think about the Bengals with Joe Burrow constantly dealing with injuries. We've already said a lot about the Browns, so this feels like a great division that always has a couple of teams in the mix. Give me the Steelers.
The Steelers actually made it last year as
Yeah,
a
Kevin
7th
just
seed.
giving no credit to
They
Mason
really
Rudolph's playoff
Damn it!
appearance against the
I
Bills last
forgot.
year.
Oh my god! Give me the
No, you're
Jets.
good.
Give me Aaron Rodgers.
Give
I
me
mean,
the Jets.
are we counting making the playoffs if you lose like 80-4?
Yes.
Sorry. just
I
had to throw one in there.
Wiped me out. I was like, yeah, no way, they weren't in. Yeah, no, they'll be right back, baby.
Although, yes,
Listen,
none
Mason
of
Rudolph
us,
threw 2
none
touchdowns
of
in
us
that
think
game.
they'll miss it. None of us think they'll fall out, according to
never
last segment. So,
I appreciate Lee. There we go. I should have just went with my boys and said, you know what, AR all the way. Let's go.
yeah, for the
Could have
shoe.
been so easy.
Yeah, and then the Jets, I think, makes a lot of sense too. If Rodgers is healthy, you'll finally see that Garrett Wilson is one of the best receivers in the NFL again. And there's a crazy amount of talent on that team. If they can somehow keep it healthy, if they can somehow, leverage all the talent on that defense, spread the ball around to the playmakers. I like the Jets. Keebs, who you got getting back into the playoffs this season?
So it took me a while to think about this. I was thinking of an AFC team in particular, but I'm going to kick it back to the NFC. So unlike Kev, I am going to be a homer. And I'm going to say we're going with the New York Football Giants, baby. Yes, sir.
Do it.
So a bit of an explanation for that.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, so I was looking at our schedule. There's a lot of games where it seems like we would lose, but teams that we historically do pretty well against. So if you want me to just like run through really quick how I think the Giants season's gonna go.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it. Then we're gonna start the season 2-0 against the Vikings and Commanders. Didn't think I'd ever say that, but we're gonna start 2-0. We're gonna sneak out a win against the Browns because I just talked shit about them, so I kind of have to, double down on it. So I don't care that it's in Cleveland, whatever. So we're starting 3-0. All right, we're gonna lose to the Cowgirls. That's fine. 3-1. It's whatever. They beat us. Whatever. We're gonna lose to the Seahawks because Daniel Jones is gonna break his neck or some shit. He'll be back the next game though. And then we're gonna beat the Bengals week 6. In MetLife, a team that we historically do well against. So I'm gonna take that. So we're gonna be 4-2 at this point, right? We're gonna lose to the Eagles. That's I don't have to explain that. Okay. We're gonna lose to the Steelers, so that puts us at 4-4. We're coasting through, week 8. 4-4, we'll take it. We're gonna beat the Commanders again because they fucking suck. So we're gonna go 5-4. I don't care if Bobby Wagner's on that team. It's basically Shaq to the Celtics. We're gonna beat the Panthers, so that puts us at 6-4. We're doing good, chilling. We're gonna, I don't know, Giants and Buccaneers. I feel like it'd be a toss-up. I'm gonna be a doomer and say we'll lose it just for the sake of whatever. So we're 6-5. On the Thanksgiving game for Giants Cowboys, we're gonna beat their ass in Dallas. So I don't even know what our record is at this point. You guys are keeping track. So whatever.
7-5, I think.
We're gonna beat the Saints. We're gonna lose to the Ravens. That's pretty obvious. I think we'll lose to the Falcons. We're going to beat the Colts, and then we always beat the Eagles on the last week of the season, so we're going to beat them then. We're going to go 10-7, second place in the NFC East because the Cowboys suck, and we're going to sneak into that wild card. So that's my prediction.
Man, there are no fans like East Coast fans. I'm gonna have someone from our stable of editors clip this. And I love the energy.
But listen, okay? All right. Lost my train of thought. I got it back. Our line, defensive line, is one of the best I've ever seen on a Giants team. You got Dexter Lawrence coming up the middle, pause, and then you got Kayvon and Brian Burns on the sides. That's insane right there.
Yeah,
On top
rough
of that,
depth, but I
on
like
top
that
of that,
trio.
you have Okereke at linebacker, who I know Kev knows. He's pretty solid. He
Beast.
had a
Very
good
good.
I love
he had a
Okereke.
good year last year.
I
He's looked
miss
good
him.
all throughout preseason. You got Deontay Banks guarding whoever the wide receiver one is. I don't care if it's Justin Jefferson or Alec Pierce. I don't care. Through a certain week in the season, and it was like middle-ish late, I think, in the season, he was averaging the least yards per catch against wide receivers. I'm looking at that this year again. We do have Daniel Jones at quarterback. I'm getting to that. So on the offensive side of the ball, right? Daniel Jones has a beard. Apparently he's dating this new like hot chick, whatever, good aura right there.
Stock up.
And then he's starting fights in training camps against the Lions. That's awesome. I've never seen that from Daniel Jones ever.
Stock soaring.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, we upgraded the O-line a lot. Like, I don't know if you guys know who our O-line is. I forget half their names, but you don't hear them, which means that they're good. So I'm just gonna pull it up. Sorry to go on a huge rant about this, but I think we're having a winning season this year. That's all I'm saying. 1 second. I'm just pulling up the depth chart for.
You want me to rattle off the names?
1 second.
I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't vote them off the island. That would have curbed this.
Okay, so you have Andrew Thomas, who's the highest paid left tackle in the league. Amazing when he's healthy. John Runyon, who was a Packer, I believe.
Yeah, Packer.
That was the one guy I was mentioning that you don't hear of him because he doesn't commit penalties, so you know he's good. John Michael Smith, who I think is going to have a much better season than he did last year. Because he's going to have more help around him, which is going to obviously be good. Greg Van Roten, we got from who? The Raiders?
Mm-hmm.
John Michael
He was
Smith.
there last year.
And we got him, and then we got Jermaine
Illuminor.
Illuminor. He
we
was
go.
really solid. He's been really solid like the last 2 seasons.
So I think that with, in my opinion, a top half O-line, I'm not going to put anything crazy because whatever. I think we went from like 31st to like fully healthy, like 15, 16, which is really good because now you give Daniel Jones time in the pocket to stare down the first read and then throw an interception. But other than that, you have Malik Neighbors, who's looked like an absolute stud.
Yes.
This entire training camp preseason, well, not preseason game because he didn't get thrown the ball, but training camp, he's looked amazing. 18 passes were thrown to him. He caught 17 of them. One was ruled out of bounds. Whatever. And then you have Hyatt up the seams, Wandale in the slot, and then you got Bellinger, who's really not a bad tight end, and then Singletary with a pretty good O-line. I have a lot more confidence in this team than I did last year.
Yeah, I could see that. It's gonna look a lot different without Saquon. So I am really curious to see what Dable does with the group. He was able to get some really good things out of his O-line in 2022. You do finally have in Brian Burns a guy who can hopefully, draw some double teams on the outside, take KT some more one-on-ones. Maybe he can finally kind of grow into that potential that a lot of people saw. Dexter Lawrence is the baddest man we have in the league. So I can squint a little bit and I can see some of what you're saying there. Lee, don't worry.
I forgot the most important thing, which I'm so happy about. Like, I was jumping around my room. Last year, after the wild card season, so last year, Dable decided to give the offensive play calling to Mike fucking Kafka. Okay? He's in training camp, practice, preseason, whatever, he's taken back. Dable's taken back over the entire offense. Like we hired him to do like the offensive mastermind he is, and we're gonna get the 2022 wild card Daniel Jones back this year. So I'm excited.
The Dableizer, getting things back on track.
Sorry for my 40-minute rant. But.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. If I felt the same way about my favorite team, you guys might be getting something similar. Lee, I do want to mention the Bengals really quick. They might have the worst run defense in the league this season. That's going to be a problem. And Burrow's dealing with some nagging injuries already, like he starts every season. I'm not particularly worried about that. I'm sure he'll be all right, but that's the reason they're not on my list to get back. I don't think they're going to be able to stop the run to save their lives. Good thing Trevor's in the chat because, hey, Trevor, another year, another me pontificating about the Chargers' potential. So Kellen Moore's gone, and I know that was kind of the big knight in shining armor for me last season, but Mr. Harbaugh's in, Joe Alt is in. I think you're going to see, you might not see the craziest production from Justin Herbert this year, but I think it's going to be a lot tighter. I think the offense is going to be run better, no pun intended.
Smoking Fuss, baby.
Yes, Gus Bus. It's going to be. It's going to be a just ground and pound unit with a quarterback who's got a howitzer attached to his shoulder. So if you're getting little chunks on the ground, 3-4 yards, getting to second and shorts, second and mediums, and you can go to play action and uncork a few with Justin Herbert. I think you're going to see some really good things. Not the best group of pass catchers in the league, but I think you also see a little bit of improvement from the defense from last season. And I think they're back in. I think they grind out. I think you see a lot less of the Chargers charging this year. I think there's going to be less bullshit choke jobs. I think there's going to be less, Brandon Staley jobs, and I don't know. There's still a lot of talent there. I know they blew it up a little bit, but they were able to keep Mack and Bosa if they stay healthy. It could be a little bit more interesting. They don't have a huge glaring weakness to me that is, something that I think might keep them out of it. I think the coaching is going to be a lot better, and I think you're going to see Justin Herbert turn that corner. Trev, no, he doesn't. I just am enamored with his skill set, and I just really want it to work. So I'm speaking a little bit of it into existence, but it's just going to be a well-run program.
I think that the Chargers do have a clear weakness, and it's the fact that Quentin Johnson can't catch a fucking cold if he wanted to.
Yeah,
he won't be on the field. Don't worry. He
I don't think that's going to make much. Yeah, I don't think that's going to.
Not going to make a difference.
It's going to play out too much, frankly. I think they're just going to grind out more wins than we've seen them do in the past 3-4 seasons, and kind of be one of those teams that does some of that Titans under Vrabel shit, does some of that Steelers under Tomlin shit, where you're just like, oh, I guess they're 10-7, I guess they're in there. So yeah, that's me. I'm going Chargers over teams like the Bengals, over teams like the Browns. And, who else might even be in there? Like, there might only be one wild card spot. I think Dolphins and Bills are going to be in there, and I think you're going to see Ravens and Steelers in there off the top of my head. So they might get that third wild card spot and sneak in. So, They will look good doing it. All right. I like the feedback. This is good. So this might ruffle more feathers. We're going to talk quarterbacks.
Coming off of that brilliant Justin Herbert exchange.
We're going to talk more about quarterbacks now. So I wanted us to kind of go through the exercise together, instead of kind of all having our own lists and going back and forth, but just kind of go through together the top 15 quarterbacks of 2024. So we're projecting out a little bit. We'll take into account what the last few years looked like, of course. We'll take into account coaching changes and personnel changes and the weapons they'll now have around them. So, and it's not necessarily just production, not cumulative stats, just, how well they played the quarterback position this season with kind of what's at their disposal. So, I think the top two are pretty universal for most. Obviously Mahomes, and I think, a lot of people kind of have Josh Allen right after him.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Which of the two was Anthony Richardson? I'm sorry. Hang on. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And then, it's kind of Josh Allen, Lamar territory after that. I think, regardless, those are guys who are going to be in everybody's top 5, 6, 7, at the worst. From there, for me, I'll just get the ball rolling a little bit and we can kind of round table it after that.
We didn't even make it out the top 2. Josh Allen's not a top 2 quarterback. Come on, John.
Zach, I don't. It's late. I can't do this with you right now. Josh Allen, Lamar are definitely in there pretty high. For me, from there, then we're talking Stroud, we're talking Dak, we're talking Burrow in that sort of echelon there. Probably a tier break somewhere around there where we get to a healthy Stafford, Herbert, Geno, Jordan Love, Tua kind of territory. I think those guys are all pretty firmly in the top 15 for me in some order or another. And then I rounded out the top 15. Allen and Hurts? Oh, no. Mahomes and Allen, Trev.
He has Mahomes at 15, I think, Trev. I think that's what he said. That's what he said pre-show. I don't know what he's telling you right now, but
and then, for me, like if we get a healthy Aaron Rodgers, the weapons at his disposal, I think he'll be really solid this year. Hurts is in there somewhere. Jared Goff, Brock Purdy. I think I named 15. Some guys kind of on the outside looking in. You might say Kirk Cousins this year if he does start the season healthy. Any other names kind of pop into anyone else's head that you think, when you're kind of going through this exercise, you might have some consideration for in that top 15 vicinity? Simon, anyone coming to your head right away?
Yeah, two names were on my list that you didn't have. One is Trevor Lawrence. I think is due for a bit of a bounce back this year. I don't think so.
I haven't written down.
Maybe you have. Yeah. I know I feel like Lawrence is your type, anyways. But one that I definitely want to throw love to is Kyler Murray. I think Kyler has a bounce back year this year. That offense did a lot of fun stuff last year, and they were working him back pretty efficiently. They had a really good run game. And now you add Marvin Harrison Jr. to that, and Kyler was working on a really good chemistry with Trey McBride at tight end. I think Kyler is going to remind people, including myself, who doubted him going into last year, that every year he was ascending, and he was working his way into the top 10 quarterback conversation before he got hurt. So I think he's going to get in there pretty firmly. And if I have to kick one out, because that's the thing with these conversations, right? Like, how did Jason Tatum not get minutes in the Olympics? who you taking off the floor, right? So like to be fair, I'm not a Tua guy. Tua's not. Our outline was top 15. I have Tua firmly at 16. If anybody wants some reasoning for that, under pressure, if you go on a PFF, he's like bottom 6 in every metric when he's under pressure. So if he's not getting that ball out of there in sub 2 seconds, in which case he's blindly throwing to a spot that he hopes his arm can get the ball to, it's not efficient. I mean, all these good quarterbacks under pressure, they fall in some areas, right? So like Matt Stafford doesn't have a ton of yards per completion under pressure. Geno Smith's completion percentage drops under pressure. But Stafford is like really high in completion percentage, and Geno is really high in touchdowns under. So like guys have their faults, but Tua's at the bottom in everything: yards, completion percentage, yards per completion, touchdowns. He's down there with the likes of Mac Jones, Desmond Ridder, Bryce Young, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett last year. Not a conversation you want to be in. So you get some pressure under him. You rattle that cage. You rattle the offense a little bit. And Tua just doesn't hold up the same way that all these guys do. So he's the one I would boot out of that top 15 conversation if I'm sneaking Kyler Murray in there.
Well, according to Tyreek Hill, Tua's top 1 in accuracy in the league. So,
see, that's what's so goofy about him. And I don't feel the Dolphins will make the playoffs this season. I'm wavering on that a little bit. The more I think about it, the more I think about the losses they've had on defense. It's goofy with Tua because his ball placement's really sharp. And so not necessarily strength, not necessarily velocity, but within the context of that offense, hitting the deep crosser, playing on time, and I, my kind of justification there for having him more in that like 12 to 15 range is sort of the context in which he'll be playing, in that Mike McDaniel offense, the way they're able to kind of get the running game going, all that pre-snap motion, all the kind of free running receivers he's able to scheme up. I think you're right though. Like, if we're looking at this more through a lens of, what all things being equal, how do these quarterbacks stack up? He's not a guy who's going to save many broken plays for you. He's not a guy who's going to, raise your ceiling or raise your floor, I should say, in that sort of way of your offense. So yeah, you're right. Like if you're able to rattle that cage, it is a little tough. So I definitely get that reasoning there. And Kyler's one too, who I think is so awesome when he's on and when he has, the weapons he needs. And Greg Dortch.
Dortch.
Just kidding. Did I say Greg? I meant Marvin Harrison. That's what everybody likes, right?
Dortch.
But yeah, I think he's kind of just fallen out of the the kind of group consciousness a little much, just with the injuries and everything like that. So if we see something from him early on this season, I'm sure he'll, kind of catapult back up a lot of people's rankings, not just in fantasy, but within the context of being an NFL quarterback. So I like that swap. That makes a lot of sense. And any other names pop into your heads, Kev and Zach, for guys who you feel like deserve to be part of that conversation for that kind of 11 through 15 sort of range, or even higher if you really fancy someone?
Yeah, no. I don't know. For the 11 to 15 range, like, I'm not gonna like say that like I'm biased or anything, because I'm really not. but like, just without naming names,
I thought it was going to be not the 11 to 15 range, but Daniel Jones is the 7th best quarterback in the NFL. That's where I thought we were headed.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah.
Although I don't agree with like the top 5 that you threw out there, but it's okay. But like, we don't have to get into that right now, like you said. But
we can do a little bit of that if you want to plant your flag with somebody you think should be up there.
All right, I'm really hoping there's a vent that like goes up to Nick's room, that says Josh Allen's not like a top 3 quarterback. But I don't know. My top 5 when healthy, like we saw what Rodgers did the year before he like lost all of his weapons, or the 2 seasons before he lost all of his weapons, fully healthy for the Packers, and that was back-to-back MVPs. So
that was also pre-menopause, but I mean, I think he might be able to get back on it. You're right. He'll get back on the saddle.
3 years ago.
I think it's not impossible for him to land back up inside that like top 5 to 7 range. Like, I don't know. The man's, in my opinion, the second most talented, or not third most talented quarterback of all time, behind Mahomes and Marino. So, I don't know.
That's not insane. That's not insane, to be honest. When you say it that way,
I think you could put them up there. We're not putting rookies on the list. You said Goff, right? Or did you leave him off?
I think I said him around like 14 somewhere. Yeah, he's kind of in that, third 5, 11 to 15 range for me. Yeah.
A lot of teams have rookie quarterbacks this year, so I'm not a fan.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I feel like that could be kind of a whole segment of an episode later on this preseason once we see a little bit more from him.
One thing I'm excited to see is Will Levis in Tennessee, seeing what he can do. I mean, he's shown he can win games. He's shown that he has a cannon. I don't know. That could be exciting. I think he'll probably land more around like the 20 range, though, like being realistic. But I do love Kyler Love. I think Kyler can easily be a top 10 quarterback this year, as long as his weapons can provide, like, get open and provide for him. Just looking at this list of teams, I mean, Bryce Young's still going to be like bottom 5. Not actually, but not near the top 15.
Yeah.
Kevin,
I do want to say, in the 2 minutes that we got to watch of Anthony Richardson, he looked really good. Being able to get out of the pocket, run in for a couple tuds. Just seeing some of his playmaking ability. I'm excited to see if he can stop banging his head off the ground. I like Jalen Hurts not necessarily being in the top 10. I think he's a bit overrated. That being said, I mean, Jordan Love, obviously top 10 in my opinion. If we're basing it off of last season, and I know this is going to be a hot take, I mean, I'm putting CJ damn near top 3, top 5, like minimum.
Yeah, I think I literally had him 4,
yeah,
or maybe 5 when I did this. Yeah, for what he's going to look like this year too, with that group of weapons is going to be something else.
And Nick didn't like my take when I said that CJ Stroud last year had a better year than Josh Allen, but it's one people can argue. They both made it to the same round, same result. So, I'm excited to see what happens there. And then if I'm forgetting, Brock Purdy's not top 15. I'm sorry. Like, I'm still on that Purdy's a like system quarterback wave. I'm not gonna get off of it. Just being transparent.
Yeah, this is though kind of projecting how they'll look in 2024, given the context a little bit too. So you can kind of rope that into to how you see these guys looking.
But I'm also predicting. Well, the 2 things that I've predicted that are looking really good this year is a Steelers jump and a pretty decent 49ers decline. So I think that holds consistent with like where I'm at. Especially when they're about apparently I saw like a few hours ago they have like a big trade that's like agreed in principle, just like Ayuk has to agree to it.
Yeah, we almost got to the hour mark without Simon talking about that, but you ruined it.
Until it happens, I will continue to show up and be as professional as we are in this context. The moment it happens, everything's out the window. I'm a different person.
But I do see a pretty big 49ers decline this year. Will they still make the playoffs? Yeah, they're the 49ers. But do I see them Super Bowl? Probably not. And that's also going to be because Purdy's going to get exposed with less weapons. So
And they quietly lost a lot of depth on the defense. Aziz
exactly.
Ansah lost who'd they bring in? They brought in Leonard Floyd.
Armstead is gone.
Armstead's
Chase
gone.
Young is gone.
Yeah, Chase Young
Dre
is
Greenlaw is hurt.
Yep. And he'll miss a good chunk.
Hufanga is still working his way back. He'll be back. Yeah, I mean Dre Green. Yeah, they were like, yeah, he might be back in the first couple. I'm like, he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, buddy. I don't think he's coming back in week 3.
They still got Warner, right?
Still got Warner. Yep. They lost a couple. I forget which rotational other defensive linemen they were on last year. The Cleveland Farrells and that whole group. Somebody else left that was in the rotation last year. But yeah, I did consider the Niners for the who's not making it, because the Niners for a long time were either in the Super Bowl or not in the playoffs. And C-Mac is banged up right now. Trent Williams is still not with the team. I'm sure he'll get there and everything, but he's just the vibes are weird. Ayuk maybe on the move. Defense maybe taking a step back. So I think there are questions. There's some chinks in the armor for the 49ers for sure.
Yeah.
Last quarterback, I'll make a case for, just to piggyback off of what Keebler mentioned a little bit. I'm going to take my chance to be a homer now and say that Anthony Richardson has a chance to slide into that 11 to 15 range. I felt a lot more confident about it before Josh Downs got hurt, but the good news is that's not a season-ending injury. It's looking like maybe a month or two that he'll be out, but he's got a lot of weapons this year, something that the Colts haven't really had on the outside for quite some time. He's got a healthy Jonathan Taylor. That offensive line year over year has improved, so you should expect them to look a lot better. And Keebler already mentioned it. As long as Anthony has taken the time to learn how to protect himself, the one injury, was in a live play, bang, bang, maybe not as much you can do about that, but the concussion was very avoidable. He didn't finish his run, essentially, let himself get hit as soon as he goes into the end zone. Very avoidable injury there. So hopefully he doesn't try to do too much, because I do think he's got a lot around him. But coming out of the draft, the things that scared me about him were his accuracy. And there were plenty of times where he did show that he can fit a ball into a tight window. Of course, you had some bad throws. You had some issues. You'll see that stuff with rookies. It feels weird including him, because in a way he's almost like a rookie quarterback. He played, I think, 3 games and some change. But I think there is a chance that he could be in the top half of QBs in the league by the end of the season.
Hell yeah.
I don't think that's crazy either. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. If that running game's more consistent, some of the designed runs they can do with him without getting too crazy with him should be really fun too. So I like that one as sort of a dark horse, no pun intended, with the Colts there. But I like that one. I like that one a lot. I was a huge fan of him coming out. I know the Vikings had their hat in the ring to get up to number 3 last season to get Anthony Richardson. But that would be, I'd love to see a big jump from him.
Lee, glad that didn't happen. I'd have been looking at Levis as my guy,
I want to like Levis so bad.
In case
the high end plays are so fun. He's just so inconsistent too.
In case it wasn't obvious, just wanted to state that I think Daniel Jones is going to end up at 16 this year. Dead serious, by the way, not like trolling or anything. I think he's going to crack that half point.
I don't, but I still love the energy. You're bringing it.
Where we got Darnold.
He's also a very underrated runner. Like, I think, was it Orlovsky? You might have seen this, Simon. Was it Orlovsky who came out with that article?
Who did his rushing? Yeah, he did like break down the top 10 in every category, and he had like Dak and Burrow and somebody else in the top 10.
Yeah, that was egregious.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand that part of it.
There's
Yeah,
the guy that runs
Daniel Jones
backwards
very
to the
underrated
end zone,
player.
though, so I don't know.
Yeah,
And
right.
that can
And earlier in his career, when he like had a little bit of a longer leash, when he was like still getting adapted, you could see like he can make those deep throws like pretty accurately, but he just needs time in the pocket, which I think he has this year. So as long as we stay healthy, because we're usually like the most injured team by like week 5. But
yeah, when they were considering, or from a media standpoint, they were considering going quarterback at 6. I was kind of the camp that I don't think Jones is a lost cause, but it's not necessarily time to cut bait if you don't really love somebody who's sitting there at 6, just because he's got a lot of tools and hasn't really found him in an ideal situation just yet, even though he's had some time under center. So yeah, I don't hate that one. Any closing thoughts on the quarterbacks, guys, before we send this out?
if there was to be a like an award for most improved player for NFL, I would put money on Sam Darnold.
That's some energy I really like.
He has a much better situation than he's had with Jets, Carolina, and even 49ers. They literally had him on a leash that was like that long.
The Kevin O'Connell passing offense, along with the weapons on this offense, it's gonna be tough to look really bad in. I mean, we saw Nick Mullins throw for 400 yards twice last season, and that was with no tenable run game. And we got Aaron Jones in the backfield this season. So yeah, I think we'll see some improvement too. I think he's going to be like just fine. I don't think he'll see any ghosts. I just the ceiling might not be particularly high there, but yeah, I think he's going to look like okay. I think he'll surprise some people in that regard.
Be wary of the first 4 weeks, John. I feel like Sam Darnold is going to get you with some fool's gold in that first month. He's going to have he's going to look really good those first few weeks, and you're going to be like, I think this is it. And then just go back to Carolina. That's all I'm saying.
Remember when he led the league in rushing touchdowns through 4 weeks in Carolina?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
3-1.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, Simon's with me. There was a time. I'm just saying.
And then Baker and PJ Walker played in the same year.
Yeah. I cannot wait to be hurt again. Well, sweet guys. Yeah, this was a fun one. I'm glad to be back at it. Before we get out of here, why don't you guys let the people know where they can find you and whatever work you're doing. Keebler, I know you're at the Nick Stop on Twitter. Let the people know where else to find you.
I'm not really active on my social media anymore, like straight up, just because NBA season's kind of ended and my page is a Knicks page. So I'm going to ramp that up when season starts, probably when preseason starts, like beginning of October. So if you guys want to follow the X account right there. And then whenever I'm available, I try to pop into Bounce or Necessary Roughness or whatever's going on. So you can catch me here.
Yeah, just keep looking here. You'll find Keebler every once in a while, and do follow the Nick Stop because that is some great stuff during the NBA season. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. Even as a Pacers fan, I would say go ahead and give the Nick Stop a follow. He is he's good people, Pacers fans. It's all right. It'll be all right. So you can find me on this very channel every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Right now, the Bounce is on a bit of a hiatus as we are out of NBA season, like Keebler just said. So we're doing Supersize Sports on Thursday. We talk about anything and everything in the wild world of sports. So come on and hang out with us. We'll be talking about whatever breaking news, rumors, weird tweets. You know how it goes in the sports world. So we'll be there every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch James and I over on our sister station, The Dweeb, talking about Marvel movies, Star Wars stuff, We are Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about anything and everything, and Star Wars only Wednesdays at 9. So we would love to see you guys all there. Thank you to everybody in the chat, by the way. I appreciate you all. And I will now pass the baton up to Simon.
What up? Hey guys. Yeah, so thanks so much for having me. It's always a blast to be on with these guys. Simon_Shortt on Twitter is where you can find me, and all my stuff is the Simon and Friends podcast, part of Box Score Network. Kev will be on soon, actually, making a reappearance on the show, getting us ready for the NFL season. This week, we had our quarterback talk here tonight. We're going to start previewing the 2025 NFL Draft QBs. That show will be coming to you, introducing you to those guys this week on Thursday morning. So come check that out. But the Simon and Friends podcast, part of Box Score Network. Come hang out. Ton of fun.
Also, that thing
links to go ahead.
The thing I did was a reference to Shador, or Shador.
Oh, nice.
however you pronounce it, where he just flexes the watch.
My brother-in-law and I have a picture like that from my wedding. Yeah, you can find the links to Simon's stuff in the description as well, if that's any easier for you guys. For me, you'll find me here every Tuesday, somewhere between 8 and 9 Central, talking football during the season. You can find me every once in a while over on Minnesota Sports Talk on YouTube, or Purple and Scold Media talking Vikings specifically. I've got some words up on zonecoverage.com. So you can find me there writing about the Vikings as well. And otherwise, maybe just floating around some other stuff on the channel here, whether it's Supersize Sports or other stuff. Thanks to everybody in the chat for keeping this thing going and giving us feedback, throwing your opinions in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And tune in next week for another episode of Necessary Roughness. I'm John. We're on Bite Size Sports. Thanks for tuning in, guys.